My cousin forged my grandpa's will to steal my land, but she never expected what I did next. For years, I'd held the key to my grandfather's old farmhouse. Every summer, I drove out, cleaned the place, and kept the land in shape. Before he passed, he told me the property would be mine, a small but steady piece of income, and a link to our family's roots. But when I went to finalize the inheritance, something was wrong. The will no longer had my name. Instead, it named my cousin Amanda, who never cared about the place. One glance at the shaky, unnatural handwriting told me what my gut already knew. This wasn't Grandpa's work. I tried calling Amanda before jumping to conclusions. She didn't answer. Instead, I got a text hours later. It's all legal. Grandpa wanted me to have it. No greeting, no explanation, just a cold dismissal. That was the moment my chest tightened in a way I can't describe. This wasn't about a piece of land anymore. It was about the years of trust, the laughter on summer evenings, the unspoken bond of being family. All of it suddenly felt like a lie. I drove back to the farmhouse that weekend. The air was heavy with the scent of cut hay, and the porch creaked under my weight, just like it had for decades. I unlocked the door, the keys sliding in with that familiar click, and stepped inside. Everything looked the same, except for a folder half hidden under a stack of magazines on the table. Inside were photocopies of Grandpa's real will, with my name clearly stated as the heir. My hands shook as I compared them to the updated version Amanda had submitted. The difference in handwriting was glaring. I knew then that this wasn't a misunderstanding. She had taken something sacred and twisted it for her own gain. I called a lawyer the next morning, explaining everything. He told me we'd need a handwriting expert, witnesses, and proof of when the changes were made. As I left his office, I caught my reflection in the glass, jaw set, eyes harder than I'd ever seen them. The quiet, forgiving version of me was gone. This was going to be a fight, and I wasn't about to lose. I thought the worst part was waiting, but waiting was the calm before the storm. With a lawyer and photocopies in hand, everything turned oddly technical. Experts, affidavits, depositions. The farmhouse felt small under fluorescent courtroom lights. The handwriting analyst arrived calm, methodical. He laid out Grandpa's grocery lists, old letters, and a disputed will, tracing strokes with a practiced eye. "This is a forgery," he said without flourish. He pointed at the hesitation in certain curves, the pressure that didn't match Grandpa's steady hand, the slant that shifted midline. His words landed like a verdict before the judge did. Amanda didn't fold. She hired counsel, filed delays, and painted me as greedy. For a while, the case became a drain of time and patience. Motions, hearings, and the slow churn of the county's legal machinery. Each court date felt like reopening an old wound, dragging private family history in a public record. Then an ordinary piece of evidence broke the stalemate, a neighbor's doorbell camera. The footage was grainy and mundane, a late-night visit, Amanda lingering by the porch, rifling through drawers, sliding a folder into her bag. She moved with the casual efficiency of someone who expected not to be seen. The image of her walking away with that folder replayed in my head until it blurred into a single, terrible truth. Faced with the handwriting analysis and the video, the judge had little choice. The contested document was invalidated. The court referred the matter for criminal investigation. Amanda was fined and ordered to pay restitution for legal costs and attempted fraud. She lost any chance of registering the land in her name. In a town where everyone knows each other's business, her reputation collapsed faster than a house's old roof in a storm. Calls from farmers and neighbors stopped coming. Invitations to community events vanished. People who'd once waved from pickups now looked away. For me, the win felt hollow. Paper could fix the title, but it couldn't unmake the feeling of being stabbed by someone who used to be a summer companion in a cornfield. I had Grandpa's land back, yet the porch where we'd shared coffee and quiet conversation carried a different weight. I caught myself checking the kitchen drawers at night, half expecting other secrets to surface. The key stayed in my drawer, but I handled it with a kind of wary reverence. When Amanda left the county months later, she sent a terse message through a mutual cousin, more an announcement than an apology. People talked. Some said she'd try to rebuild her life elsewhere. Others said the stain would follow her. I prayed the latter wasn't true, but knew better. Small towns keep stories like heirlooms, even when they break. Time did what time does best. It softened the raw edges. The ache of betrayal eased into a quiet ache, a memory you carry rather than a shout you answer. I went back to tending the land. The rent rolls kept coming, steady and indifferent. I planted a row of sunflowers along the fence, thinking of my grandfather's stubborn optimism. Justice had returned the legal right to me, but it couldn't restore the lost trust. Sometimes I still stood on the porch at dusk, the key warm in my palm, and let the wind carry the past across the field. It would never be the same, yet the land, stubborn and patient, kept offering its simple, honest yield. That, I decided, was enough to begin again. Update. A week passed like a held breath, finally released. The papers were signed, The county clerk stamped the title back into my name, and the formal part was over. The quieter work of sorting through how I felt had only just begun. Neighbors came by with casseroles and awkward apologies that carried more sympathy than judgment. Old Mr. Hayes, who'd watched me grow up, clapped my shoulder and said, "You stood for what was right." That meant more than any courtroom win. It reminded me that while Amanda's betrayal had splintered something inside me, the community's steady support began to mend it. I walked the property at dusk. The fields exhaled the same rhythms: season, soil, seed, harvest, and those simple cycles steadied me. I cleaned the spare room and set Grandpa's chair by the window, sat with coffee, and let the silence do its work. Still, the betrayal left a residue. I recoiled at distant relatives' calls, wary of small talk. Trust didn't snap back. It had to be rebuilt with patient actions. I started small, organizing a Saturday morning to fix the old fence with neighbors who volunteered. We talked about cattle, rain, and recipes, and in those ordinary conversations I felt trust knitting back a little. Amanda's name still tasted like a stone. I didn't want her life ruined for life's sake, only that justice be done. When I heard she'd left the county, relief mixed with melancholy. Imagining her carrying the consequences felt strange. Vindication softened by pity. Forgiveness wasn't ready, but compassion edged in. A week later, I unlocked the barn and took out Grandpa's tools. My hands remembered the motions they'd watched him make. It felt like reclaiming more than property. It felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that wasn't just land. The key, now on the kitchen counter, was no longer only a token. It reminded me that people can betray you, but the work you do, tending soil, keeping promises, showing up, outlasts the worst of them. I slept better that week. Not healed, but steadier. When morning came, I pulled on boots and walked the rows, ready to keep what my grandfather had trusted me with: steady, honest, and true. People began to greet me again with genuine smiles. Some offers to help with planting came, and I found small, cautious joy in planting next season's crops and hope.